tool that allows you to achieve that. And if we look at the innovations and change that we've undertaken, you can see we're starting with coving in the 70s to where we are today and to the latest release of Prefurbia. We've been constantly improving, but where's everything else that relates to software, keeping up with that and the implementation. And here's the direction that we want to go with that. We want to create a new era. And it is a new era. And as Rick highlighted earlier, and my background is architecture, and going through architecture school, there's always this romantic sense that you're going to change the world through design. We truly feel and believe that we can change the world through design if we take on the educational approach, and again, using the tools that we have available to us today to achieve that. Comparative to other systems that are on the market, are most commonly used today, the GIS and the AutoCAD system. Just as we compare the automobile in the previous slides here, PPS system blows those units out the water in terms of its ability to perform and to deliver across the board. And there's several innovations that we've introduced that are first in terms of technology. And there's no reason that the other competitors haven't taken that on beyond the fact that we really feel that they deliver and they focus their efforts on selling training. We focus and push our efforts and providing sustainable solutions for the environment and for the world as it relates to design. All the apps and the other components that were highlighted today, as well as the software, work very well together. And again, we have a track record that proves that. But at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, it comes down to the end user being yourself. And the end user is taking the educational package and implementing it. That concludes the presentation for this evening.
One more thing.
Yep.
Almost concludes.
You got it?
Yeah.
One more thing.
One more thing, and that's what we wanted to really show.
Oh, yeah, go ahead and show that.
Yeah. When we look at this plan, first time you've ever seen a presentation with a video game. We figure every young person knows how. I don't even know. I'm almost 60. I don't know how to use one of these things. You're going to see me screw up, but you give this. We go to trade shows, and there'll be kids around. And honestly, God, I'll give this to a kid that's 8 years old, and he intuitively knows how to use this thing. So what we did was, when we looked at how plans are communicated, and we look at council meetings and city meetings and going to our own clients, and they just trust us, it's going to look this way. When you look at the world of 3D, and you've seen these videos and things like that, they are hideously expensive. So people just don't do them. Well, what if you can press a button and that's all the effort? Because in a precision shape-based package, all we had to do is give it height, take that data and send it to a video game engine. A video game engine is horribly inaccurate. That's where it gets its speed. But what if we don't use it for the geometry, we just use it for the presentation? So we can give at least a sense, a feel of what this would look like, because without the buildings, we can't sense space. So what we're doing is, there would be no excuse not to give a 3D presentation and get a feel of the design, no matter what the design is, whether it's commercial or residential or what have you. So I could go in, move about the site. I'll go horizontal here. Like I said, I apologize for my lack of proficiency. Go into this building. I'm now in the home. You can see the roof. And then, I mean, it doesn't show all the detail. You know, it doesn't show all the windows and things, but it's a visualization tool that someone could say and say, this is the view out your windows. So it would influence people on what lot to buy. It would influence people as far as how to connect the interior of the home. This is Hunter's Lake, Hunter's Pass in Albertville. This is built. And so I could see the lake from that home. We use view corridors. From almost every home in that neighborhood, you could see the lake. typically they would just put the expensive homes on the lake and then no one sees it on the other side. So this is another thing in Prefurbia is what's called pullback to create these view corridors. So this is what I just wanted to explain is this technology with the this video game engine that everything, land surveying doesn't matter. Everything can then be effortless and people can then visualize, and then you don't have to, if someone asks a question, what's it look like here? So what it does is actually makes bad plans look worse and good plans look better. So if you had some of the development that you saw earlier, you wouldn't look so good in this package. So it also encourages good design because if I had a plan with no space and I went to the planning commission, and let's say I was an engineer and I submitted that plan, it goes to the planning commission, they can put the space in there, get a 3D image, and then the planners could say, hey guys, this is actually what this thing's going to look like built, not that colored rendering that you see. Because I'm in the planning business. My job is to get these things approved. And unfortunately, the planning business has been evolved into embellishing maybe some green area that's not really there, putting tree stamps to hide the amount of pavement. There's all kinds of trickery we do, which we write about and expose in Prefurbia. So, and we do that because it shouldn't be done. It shouldn't be done. You should see a subdivision plan shouldn't be lots and streets. It should have every home, every improvement, and show exactly what's going to be built, not lots and streets. And then maybe it'll shock some of the planning commission and council members, maybe, because they can't visualize. This is a huge visualization tool that we've developed, but we use a video game engine. And that means you can go anywhere you want, anytime you want, on the fly. So it's a different technology. Just thought I'd show you that. But I'd like to open up to questions, and you got to have questions. We did that all in an hour. I can't believe it. It's like 145 slides. We could have done it slower. Yes. I'm sorry.
Check, check.
I was going to ask. It looked like a lot of housing divisions, but you said you've done some mixed use too. Mm-hmm. Could you talk about just kind of how some of those have looked like, or if there's any additional challenges when you go to do mixed use, particularly with some of the commercial?
Let me just call up something with that we've done. Now you're talking about urban mixed use or suburban mixed use? Okay. Yeah, and there's a reason for that. We get a lot of suburban work, but there's DVDs here. We've got a few of them. They're specific to urban, how that applies. About 3 years ago, we started looking at urban redevelopment. So I have one here that is, it starts with H. Here we go, Hawthorne Eco Village. This is an urban redevelopment project in Minneapolis. It has commercial on the lower floor of a multi-story building along Broadway, or I think it's Broadway in Minneapolis. It was a study we did about 2 years ago. So you have condo units on top, commercial below where you've got an existing busy street with a lot of commercial on it. And so it is mixed use, fairly high density, 25 units per acre. But again, with the attention to detail to get people, nobody's on an interior unit, you get the window wrap, use the abandon the street that went through because you couldn't make a left turn here anyhow. There was a median that they built. and we have streets on each side. So we abandoned this street, and then we created a feature that ends up being, again, giving less of a urban feel and a little bit more humanness to the development. But the lower part of these units would be commercial along the street. We don't do a lot of it. We wish we would, and we got a nonprofit group that we're working with to attack that on an aggressive scale in the next few years, hopefully. So.
Hi, thanks for your presentation tonight. You were here in 2008 for our Sustainable Planning and Engineering Conference.
Yes, I was.
One of the things you said there that stuck with me is that you can be green without being sustainable, but you can't be sustainable without being green. And
oh, yeah.
You talked about how being an early adopter and some of the newest whiz-bang stuff for saving energy is not always the best. But,
and I have a new story on that too, but go ahead.
Okay. But as a city commissioner, it's just the more I learn about urban design and energy efficiency, my passion's about doing more for less. That's a conservative way to go. You get the most bang for your buck for the taxpayers. And it just occurs to me that the biggest energy user is not making the best use of the land that you have.
Yeah.
And land use. And maybe you can touch on that.
Yeah, well, the big thing is, we have a lot of discoveries. And that big thing with the flow, and I'm not even sure I would have mentioned flow in 2008, because that's more recent. Every time we're comfortable with the design process, we're ready to go to the next step. We look at what can we improve. We're our biggest critics. And I don't know what the next step is going to be, but we're going to reach a point where we go, where can we improve? And so the flow was a real big thing. It's a huge thing as far as, you'll see a lot of developments in Fargo, this area, where you'll enter and you'll stop. And then you go each way. That destroys flow right there. And why would you want to be in the home that's headlights are going into? So we're not looking at flow. That was a big thing. Since 2008, I built a new home. And it's dual green certified. It's Minnesota Green Star and NAHB Green. And as you know, and you can get this information from my website because I have a whole report on this, my nightmare with green, is I had a passive solar home in '83. I had free heat. For 13 years I'd been there. Now my ex-wife has free heat. And all we did was southern-facing home, dark floor, 1.5 inches of concrete, sun heats the floor stays hot for 2 days, control the sun with the shades. Worked perfect for 13 years. Then, in fact, we had to open the windows some days, and it's 20 below zero to cool off the home, or control it with the shades. So I figured, I'm going to build another one. It works so good. Minnesota Green Star, the first thing is 4 pages of how to build passive solar in Minnesota. No, nothing new. Go on the internet, nothing new since '83. Should have been the first warning sign. So I took 3 months and I thought, I'm going to do my own study. So I had in the sunlight tiles, and generally they got from about 120 to 160 degrees in direct sunlight. So we chose a tile based on the looks and the heat performance. So I